Hey everyone, welcome to my escape. At the beginning of August, I posted an August TBR, which I never ever do and don't expect again because it kind of sucked. But I posted that TBR because it was really important for me to read these certain books. So I'll link that in the cards, and if you want to go watch that, you can. But today is the day I meet that friend again and officially give these books back. So the question is, have I read them? Let's find out. I did say if I didn't get certain books done by the end of August, aka now, you were to yell at me. You don't have to yell at me because I actually finished them all and I'm very, very, very excited. So let's get into it. One that I picked up that she lent me was Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is my first Colleen Hoover book ever. I had no intentions of ever reading this. I've seen it on the book platforms forever, but not every book is for every person. However, that girl hyped this up so much that I was so excited to get into it. And then I did get into it and then I got bored and I put it down. Hence the TBR. But I did pick it back up and I did finish it. So essentially what's going on in this book is it's a thriller. We follow a struggling author who gets picked up to kind of co-write or ghost-write the end of a very, very popular series because that author is now comatose. She moves into the comatose author's house where she's comatose upstairs, and then with her husband and the child. And this new author kind of comes in here, and while looking for notes that the original author had on finishing the series, she stumbles across an autobiography of the original author. And while she's living in this house with this person's family and like that person upstairs, she starts diving into this like really dark memoir of Verity, since basically it picks up at the time she met her husband, up into like the tragic deaths of her children and so forth and so on. And as the author we follow kind of goes through the story, it is jumping between like our author and then Verity's autobiography, and you're just kind of like, oh my god, is this real? Kind of what's going on? Like there's no way this is real, and you're just kind of diving further and further into like her psyche or her experience, and you're just kind of like, oh my god. Or I assume that's what you're supposed to be doing. And then at the end, it's like, uncovering the truth. Like, really, what is the truth? I didn't like it. Okay, I didn't like it. Granted, again, I've never read Colleen Hoover, and I don't like thrillers. I'm trying to like thrillers. I really want to get into thrillers. I'm just not there yet. And this didn't make me there. Earlier in the year, I read Housemaid, and this gave me very much the same vibes as Housemaid. So to break it down, the beginning, and by beginning, I mean probably first 50% of the book, was really boring. Really boring. Okay, I only pushed through it because I made that TBR video, so thank goodness for that. But I was so bored throughout, I didn't care. And then by the time it got interesting, I still didn't care because I had no attachment to the plot or the characters or really anything that was going on. So by the time I was like, what's real? I'm like, I don't care what's real. I literally could not care less because I'm never going to think about it again. So it wasn't horrible. It did pick up in the end. I don't necessarily get the hype at all, because essentially this is the exact same to me as The Housemaid. I don't know which came out first, but I also don't understand this fascination or this reoccurring theme, and at least the thrillers I've read, of stealing someone's husband. Why is this the thing to do? I don't get it. I don't love it. It just seems really weird and awkwardly placed. So let me know down in the comments below, is this like a thriller thing? Does this happen in a lot of thrillers, or is this just a coincidence that I picked up 2 thrillers back to back with the same trope? I don't even know if that's what you'd call it. I didn't love that. I also really didn't appreciate that this was spicy because it was so weird and awkward and out of place, and I was just like, ew, please no. Please get me out of your bedroom. Please close that door. There was no need for that. I laughed in Housemaid because I was like, fade to black scene. Haven't read one of those in forever. I wish this was a fade to black. And then the whole ending of like, what is true? Again, I think it was supposed to leave you like thinking about this book. It really didn't. I don't care. So I didn't really enjoy this one. I gave it a 3 stars because I'm not into tanking on Goodreads other genres that I don't actually know, because I don't think I'd love if people that don't read romance come and rate romance and stuff like that. So I gave it a 3, just left it in the middle. It is what it is. 3 is not a bad rating for me. In my own personal books, I would probably give this a 2. It had like some redeeming aspects towards the end, but even still, not really. The best chapter in here was actually the epilogue, and I hate epilogues, but I think that was the exclusive bonus chapter that this edition was, and I guess that was the most interesting, but even still, it was like the beginning of another story or like a sequel that I didn't care to read. So the next on the list, we had The Curse of Saints. Again, look how pretty this is. This is a Fairy Loot edition. I love Fairy Loot. I just think they make such beautiful books. No, I don't have a subscription because I can't afford it, which again is why we love this friend, because she literally just gave this to me. She was like, I have no interest in reading it. And if you do, you can just have it. And I was like, bless you. Yes, I do have an interest in reading it simply because I want to own it. So then the breakdown of this one is the world is medieval-esque. I'm not really sure, we'll get into that. There's humans and then there's people with magic, and the people with magic are confined to kind of one ability, so you can control fire, or you can control ice, or you can control sensations, stuff like that. And you're confined within that. There's this big, like, religious, I wouldn't even say undertone, because it is so driven and apparent in everything. So there's just this big religious element where it's like the gods have put grip or vice on these magic people's powers so they don't grow too powerful. They kind of like limit it within the religion, and then the religion dictates what these magic people can do and how can they participate in society. So I would say our two protagonists are from one kingdom, and they're very like high-ranking generals, and they're both magic users, and they spend the majority of the book in a neighboring kingdom trying to secure an alliance because they believe that the prophecy's coming, that there's this group of dark magic users that are rising that want to overthrow the gods' control and to kind of have unlimited powers and access to all the elements, everything for one person. So our two protagonists believe that this is rising, then they're looking to secure alliances to protect their kingdom. So I did not enjoy this at all, which really sucks because it's very pretty. It's a pretty thick book, and like I said, all they do pretty much the whole time is try to secure an alliance. I was bored. I was so bored, and I hated the characters. This is a perfect example of tell not show. You were told so much information about the characters, but you were never shown anything to back it up. So, for example, our main girl on the cover is the head, like, spy master of this entire kingdom. Tell me what? Tell me how she is literally called out for being unable to lie. Tell me how she is caught every single time she's trying to sneak around. The mark always catches her. Tell me how she's trying to get information on this other mark and just forgets herself and like spews information out at him, essentially, like about her. And I was like, why would you give him this information? You're supposed to be this incredible spy master, and I've seen nothing to back it up. Literally nothing. I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do it. And then everything about our main two being like some of the best fighters and the best at magic, like they were literally shown up on like almost every single occasion. I just can't. I hate that so much. If you're going to tell me something about a character, back it up with action. Or better yet, don't tell me, show me. As a writer, show me, okay? Show me she's the best spy master. Show me how she got this position, because she seems young, naive, bad at her job. I don't know how she got this high into the ranks this quickly, because she's got nothing to back it up. And I hated reading about her. I'm really picking on her. The guy was no better. The other like protagonist that we followed, he was no better. I just keep forgetting he exists in my head, so I don't really have anything to back that up with. And then all the characters were so one-dimensional, flat, boring. The dynamics between them didn't make sense. None of the motivations of any of the characters made sense, even when they were like explained in the end. I'm like, there are so many holes in your story, and I don't know if that's the motivations not making sense or plot holes, which there were also many of, but I'm like, the reasoning you give behind, like, keeping this information or, like, doing whatever you're doing makes literally zero sense and has so many, like, but what ifs to it that I couldn't take it seriously. There was, like, world building, I think is what they tried to do, but I'm still confused on what the world was supposed to be. It felt like 3 major fantasy series that, like, I know in my head, like, other fantasy series, and this was just, like, a mix and a mash of them all, but not really establishing itself as anything, like, original or unique. And then it mashed them all so poorly that I'm still confused about, like, what the world is. Like, are they in a medieval society? Is this how they dress? Because when they would talk about their attire and stuff, I'm like, so you're wearing a tube top and jeans? So you're wearing a suit? Like a man's suit with the button-up shirt? Like, are you in medieval times? Or are you in kind of, like, present day? Like, I had no idea what I was supposed to be imagining, and it kind of like went back and forth, which was jarring. And then it was like relying on me having knowledge of other worlds to build itself, which I don't appreciate, but I had to pull from all these different series to kind of create a world around where I think it could function, and then it would be like jarring, and I just hated it. I gave it 2 stars, but I think I'm gonna drop it down to 1 because I literally enjoyed nothing about this and I don't have anything redeeming to say for it. So then the last book I talked about with my new friend was Once Upon a Broken Heart. She didn't give me this. I actually had this from a used book sale previously, but we had just talked about this a lot and I was really struggling with the other books. So, you know, before I finished them, I had picked this one up and then I was like, that'll just give us like more to talk about. And I loved this one. At least I'll have something positive to say when we get together and it won't just be like me crapping all over these books. I guess there's Fourth Wing too that we can talk about that I was really positive on. But this one actually shocked me with how much I like it. So before we get into it, this is the Indigo exclusive edition and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, like I don't love the cover. I don't love the original cover either. And again, I got it used, so I didn't really care and it wasn't a book that was a priority to me. But then I took the dust jacket off when I went camping so I could bring it with me. And it's actually so pretty. Like, I would rather this on my shelf than the dust jacket, and I always love dust jackets. But then it's got like a secret cover to it, which makes sense if you read the story, and I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that so much. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I think I'm gonna leave it on my shelf like this, but for now, because I'm talking about it, I'll put the dust jacket back on. It opens on our main character, and she is searching for this fate, or this like immortal magical being that can stop the boy she loves from marrying her stepsister. So she's brokenhearted and she's come to like the conclusion that he must be cursed and she has to save him. So she searches out this kind of like half evil or like warned against being to kind of help her. She makes a deal with him in exchange for her help kind of in the future when he calls for it. Obviously that's not great, but it ties the two together. And then things start to unfold and she kind of realizes what she's done and goes to kind of some lengths to fix it and to correct it. But at the same time, she's still attached to this guy and she still owes him. They end up in a neighboring kingdom and it is like this storybook kingdom. Like it's literally like a fairy tale come to life, but like a twisted kind of fairy tale come to life. And everything about it is so magical and so amazing. So now they're in this kingdom and she's still trying to help him while still trying to right the wrongs, while still trying to like walk the moral line, while trying to figure out what is happening in this like plot she's now involved in and why this fate is trying to do what he's doing. The world building in this was flawless. I have not been that like brought in and in love and like felt in a magical world since I was a child. This was like reading a fairy tale as a child. Like the world building was so good. I loved every single aspect of it. For it to bring you in like that as an adult, is like screams to me because I've read so many fantasy books and sometimes it is hard to like kind of come up with that original idea and I get that, but this was literally amazing. I love the main character as well. She's bold and she's brave and she's kind of naive, but she's learning, and that like kind of like innocence and naivete does fit like her character age. But she's growing and she's learning and she's trying to do better and she's dealing with like guilt and shame and doubt and hope and love and all these other things that she's been searching for. Also like grief because she's recently lost her parents, and there's so much like going on with her that you just love her and you love to see the steps she takes and the things she does, because every time I'm on my toes. I don't know what's gonna happen next. And that's not just her, like that's the writing. Like I honestly had no idea where their story was going. I didn't know the twists and the turns. I literally had no idea what was gonna happen next. And so many times stuff would pop up and I'd be like, wait, what? But like in the best way. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. So like that was just amazing, and like the twists and turns were so cool, and that's I think why I love so much. When I like took the dust jacket off, I was probably 70% into the book, and then when I found that it was like a hidden cover, I was absolutely obsessed and in love because it was like another twist I didn't see coming, but it had blended over into my real life. And I loved it. I would recommend this to everyone. It was magical. It was amazing. It's just a YA fantasy, so like romance isn't, despite it being called like Once Upon a Broken Heart, it's really not like, I don't think like a romance story. She doesn't want to be loved, but like it's not like you're watching her kind of fall in love. I just loved it. I will be getting into the second one eventually, but I do just kind of want to like soak in this for a little bit and just like appreciate it. I also don't own the second one, so I don't know when that will be, but I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars and I would highly recommend. And those are the ones that were on the TBR. So again, I'm so excited because I hate TBRs and I never ever finish them, and I read every book on that TBR. It sucked. It was like pulling teeth and it was awful, but I did it. So now it's time to get into some books that weren't on the TBR that I just read kind of because I wanted to. Sticking with the like YA fantasy, A Curse as Dark as Gold. When I say I have been reading this for over a decade, I'm not lying. This is my Goodreads stat, okay? Over a decade, almost 11 years, I've been trying to get through this. So this is just a YA fantasy. It's not even that big. It's under 400 pages. Why has it taken me 11 years to get through? That's a great question. I got this from the Scholastic Book Fair in like a collection with other books, and I picked it up and I got bored and I put it down. And that should have been the end of it, okay? I never should have thought about this book again. I wouldn't have even remembered that I had started it, nothing. But then when I got back into reading last year, I opened up my Goodreads account and this was the only one sitting on my currently reading list. So I was like, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna read it just cause. And I made that promise to myself. Why I did that, I don't know. But now for like a year and a half or over a year and a half, I have been like, I'm going to finish this. So it's bad. I just take it to work. I throw it in my backpack and I might read like a page here, a page there when I can squeeze it in. But essentially this is like a fairy tale retelling, but like very, very loose. So think like Rumpelstiltskin and like Spinning Gold type of thing, but very, very loose. And takes place in like the 17 or 1800s. And our main character is young, her father dies, and she inherits the mill, like the wool mill, that the entire town relies on as like an income. So she inherits this mill, it's basically destitute, it's losing money, she's gonna lose the mill, everyone in her community, everyone that she loves is gonna lose their jobs, her and her sister are gonna have no place to go. So it's really inherent that she has to come up with a way to save the will and then also to make it profitable. So she's struggling to get a hold of this business and to keep their heads above water and to not really like let anybody take what matters to her most. She tries and she comes up with some really great ideas, and every time it looks like things are turning around, something happens and the mill falls back into like destitution, or something happens and she's not going to be able to pay the bills. And it's basically like the universe is working against her at every single turn. She comes across this mysterious figure who's willing to help her out in exchange for like small things here and there. And so she says, okay, let's do this. And then she gets in a little bit too deep with him and has to kind of figure out who he is, how he connects to Stir Waters, what's going on with this mill, why everything is against them, and unravel all. Despite it taking me 11 years, it wasn't a bad book. Okay, the writing was really pretty. I loved the main character. I was attached to her. I felt for her. Every time something happened to the mill, my heart broke for her. And I really, really just wanted her to succeed, to be happy, and to know that like all the effort she's put in, it has paid off. However, you can only watch something fall so many times before you're like, girl, just give up. Just walk away. The universe is against you. We don't know why. Just walk away. After a little bit, you're uninterested anymore because it's honestly just such a downer. You're just like, I really wish life would go right for you. Like, I truly wish the best for you. It's not happening. Maybe it's time to cut your losses. But she doesn't, and she won't give up, which I love and hate about her at the same time. And it took me 11 years to get through. This is considered a fantasy YA. I would consider this historical fiction. The magic was there, but it was so like minimally tiny, itty bitty, sprinkled like a dash on maybe like 2 chapters that I was like, I'm literally flipping through it. I'm like, where's the magic? I was promised magic. I see no magic. I don't remember how far I was into this book, but I literally had to come back and read the synopsis and be like, there is magic in here, right? Like, this isn't just a historical fiction, because I don't read historical fictions, okay? I don't like them. They bore me. I'm happy I read it. I'm glad I finished it. It's finally off my currently reading. I'm actually super pumped about that. I just finished it this morning, but I'll probably never think about it again. I thought that 11 years ago, and here we are, so who knows. I would recommend, if you like historical fiction, like it would be like a young adult historical fiction, if you like kind of like Jennifer Donnelly's writing, I would say that this might be a good one for you. However, if you're looking for a fantasy book, this is not one I would recommend. And then while I was trying to finish like my stack of books, and there was nothing really like I was reading for myself kind of at the moment, and I was struggling. I didn't want to read. Like, it always felt like a chore. Like, this is what happens when I put things on TBR. So I was just really struggling, and I didn't want to like read any of it. And I was talking to my dad while we were visiting my grandpa, and he was like, you know, why don't you just read something for fun? And I'm like, Dad, I don't have time. I have to pack. I have to figure out like what I'm doing. I still have to make content. I have to finish the books I'm reading. Like, I literally don't have time. And I was just very stressed. My dad was like, you know what? I have the perfect book for you, and I know your grandpa has it. So then we walked out to my grandpa's library and we looked through all of his books, and that was like a really fun time. And he pulled out Another Fine Myth, So I borrowed this from my grandpa based off of my dad's recommendation. It's small, it's like a novella, it's 200 pages exactly. It was written in 1978, and it's just a fun, magical time. It was exactly the breath of fresh air that I needed from all these other reads. Some of them were like heavy into the world building, some of them were boring, and this was just fun. It was just fun, it was unexpected, it was a change up. So I mark this as a comedic fantasy. I don't know if that's a real genre, but on the cover it literally says, "Another fine myth, take the universe as it is, add devils, dragons, and magic, then stand back." Everything about this book is a joke. And like, it's meant to be that way. Like, it's 90% banter. It's literally like the movie, if you know the movie Dumb and Dumber, it gives that vibes, but on a page in medieval times with like magic added in. So essentially we have Skeeve, who's a magician's assistant, think in like medieval human times, and the magician gets really mad at him because he's not paying attention and he's not like learning fast enough, and he's going to use magic for thieving, and he's like, "You can't do that, I'm gonna scare you straight, I'm gonna summon a demon." So he does that, and in summoning a demon during this time, an assassin appears and says, "Hey magician, we hate you, die," and then the guy does. And then Skeeve is left, and the assassin died when he killed the magician, but this demon has been summoned, so Skeeve's like, "Oh my god," and the demon comes like bearing down on him, and he's green, and he's scaly, and he's got these big fangs, and he's like, "Arr." I don't know why that was my demon face, but you get it, right? And Skeeve's, he's backing up, and he's like, "I'm gonna die," and then the demon bursts out laughing, and he's like, "You should have seen your face," and that's the vibe of the book. That demon is now attached to Skeeve, and they have to come and kind of like figure out who killed the magician and stuff like that. So then they just like traipse around, and Skeeve learns magic, and really it's just 90% them talking themselves out of stupid situations that they're gonna get them killed, and like using the most ridiculous logic to get out of it, and having like the most gullible characters you could possibly have believe these stories. It was just fun. Okay, the world building was like basically nothing. Now, with that said, I didn't love it. I only gave it a 3 stars. After a while, the banter does get like repetitive and a bit boring, and also the first female character that gets a name as well as a line, but also just like exists, is like using her feminine wiles for men, and that's how she's dressed on the cover. She does not come into the book until page 145. They did not feel that there was a need for women until page 145. There was one other woman that had a line before that, and she was a prostitute, and the line was something like, "Come hither," as they walked by in the alley, and that was all you got. And I was like, that's really telling of like a male author from the 1970s all the way up, I would say even to the 2000s, is they didn't feel a need for like women in their writing. So when I read the book, I go, okay, but where are all the women? I've never read a female author that didn't have a man in her story, and I just don't love how the authors feel like women aren't, like, it never even occurred to them to have a woman in it, and then when it did, it's solely to offer that like sexual tension, and I just don't like it. I just don't like it at all. So I didn't love that, and it's very glaring to me that like women just weren't present. And then when she finally was on page 145 of a 200-page book, it was really just so the guys had something to look at. And then I did end up rereading 2 books, Sinners Consumed, again, because I love it. But I feel like I've talked about that book all the time. It's also the second in the duet, so I can't really get into it, but it's a mafia romance, underlying themes of luck. We both hate each other and don't want to be together, but we can't seem to stay apart, and very much like bantery and like betting against each other. And I reread Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert because I just wanted something short, something spicy, something I knew I was gonna like. So just briefly, like the tropes, ex's dad, it's like my favorite ex's dad. Short, spicy times, there's the daddy kink in it, which I don't love, but if that's your thing, that's in there. But then very also like exhibitionist in a way as well, but also just kind of like playing through fantasies kind of thing, if that makes sense. But it's a fun time. I really like the characters, and I don't know how I'm so attached to these characters after such like a short read, but I really am, and I need the best for them. So I do have to add to this video because when I should be packing and doing other things, I read a mafia romance, and it was great, okay? It was Carnal Urges. This is like captor captive. She's dating someone from the Russian mafia, and the Irish mafia kidnaps her to kind of like get information or like get back at them or whatever, except she's not like your regular heroine. Not that like she's different, but she just doesn't have a sense of fear, period, which is kind of fun in a mafia romance because, you know, they do some messed up things and she's just like, rolling with the punches, and she's like, you want to kidnap me? See if I care. You'll be in love with me by the end of the day. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved her. I loved the like different vibe than a lot of mafia romances take, and it was a really fun read. By the second half, I was like, the tension's kind of gone, and things were moving really, really fast, and I was just kind of like, I don't really care about, like, it almost felt like a new book. Like, there was a new plot kind of happening, and I was like, I really don't care about this. Bring me back to, like, the angsty tension kind of thing over here. But I definitely would recommend. It definitely was fun. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys right now. Comment below if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. I post videos every Fridays and sometimes on Tuesdays when I'm feeling it. So ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye!